Hi there, this is biggerlouie1988 and I'm back here with my DVD review of this here, UFC 4. It was held on December the 16th, 1994 at the Expo Square uh, Pavilion at Tulsa, Oklahoma, USA. And the attendance was 5,857 fans. Now, one thing I've just got to say, every time I watch a UFC DVD, it tops the last one I've watched. And this one is no exception. Still, the same format, uh, 8 guys in one tournament, 8 different fighting styles, and there is also there are 3 alternate fights, and that's for whoever gets injured in the tournament will get a replacement to carry on. So but this UFC 4, The Revenge of the Warriors, it's just truly unbelievable. But what I am gonna do, I'm gonna go through the fights, tell you what I personally think of each fight, and then I'm gonna give you my personal opinion. So here we go. The first 3 fights were alternate fights, which was the first fight was Joe Charles took on Kevin Rosier. You might remember Kevin Rosier from UFC 1. What happened was Joe Charles beat Kevin Rosier via submission armbar in 14 seconds. And the next alternate fight was Bossett took on Eldo Diaz Xavier, and this fight ended in Bossett beat Xavier via knockout in 4 minutes 55 seconds. And the other alternate fight is Guy Mezger. If people are not too familiar with Guy Mezger, he spent years and years of training with Ken Shamrock at the Lions Den training facility, and Guy Mezger took on Jason Fairn, and Guy Mezger defeated Fairn via TKO corner stoppage in just 2 minutes and 13 seconds. So there you go. So those were the alternate fights which weren't on this DVD. But I'm gonna go through the tournament which was on the DVD, and I'm gonna tell you what I personally thought of each fight. So here we go. The first fight was Royce Gracie took on Ron Van Clief. Now, Ron Van Clief at this time was, I think he was about 50 years old, or he might have been a little bit younger. But still competing at his age, and against a guy like Royce Gracie, who came back into this tournament from winning UFC 1 and then UFC 2. He couldn't compete in he competed in UFC 3, but he got out of the tournament due to exhaustion and injury. But he's back to reclaim his title, and this was a pretty good fight. Royce Gracie took down Ron Van Clief fairly easy, and was just mounted on top of him, not using any of his energy at all, letting Ron Van Clief using his energy to try to get out, which is one of the main rules of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, is you don't use any energy, let them do all the work. So it was a fairly entertaining fight, and Royce Gracie came into this fight with a purpose and ready to reclaim his UFC, his UFC title, of being the UFC 1, UFC 2, and he wanted to be the UFC 4 champion, and he certainly went on his way to do that. He beat Ron Van Clief via submission, rear naked choke in just 3 minutes 49 seconds. So Royce Gracie went into the quarterfinals, and he has advanced into the semi-finals. So the next fight was the one and only Keith Hackney. You may remember Keith Hackney from UFC 3, who he had that amazing David versus Goliath fight with Emmanuel Yarborough. And Keith Hackney, his fight in UFC 4, he took on Joe Son. Now, if people are not too sure who Joe Son is was the manager of Chemo, and I am not going to say any more about Joe Son, because the things what he has done in the octagon cage and outside the octagon cage is disgusting. As a human being, to be honest, I think he is scum. And for people who want to know more about him, please Google him, read him up on Wikipedia, and he's absolutely scum. But anyway, back to this fight. Keith Hackney tried to instantly take down Joe Son, but Joe Son weighs in at around about 250 pounds, and he's about 5'9", 5'10", and he could not take down Keith Hackney could not take down Joe Son. So Joe Son got Keith Hackney down fairly easy, but Keith Hackney switched it around. They got back up, and then Keith Hackney finally got Joe Son down, but Joe Son had hold of Keith Hackney's head, which I think he was trying to do a reverse guillotine choke, but Keith Hackney, whilst his head was still held, Keith Hackney switched over to the side, to the side mount, and was constantly giving him groin shot after groin shot after groin shot. Keith Hackney was pounding on Joe Son's groin, and it wasn't something pretty to watch, but you could not help but not watch it, and it was fairly not nice. And what happened was Keith Hackney defeated Joe Son via submission by just simply choking him, just a choke, at 2 minutes 44 seconds after groin strikes. So Keith Hackney has advanced into the semi-finals to take on Royce Gracie. And another thing about Joe Son's unsportsmanlike manner was when Keith Hackney went to shake Joe Son's hand and give him a hug, for being a good sportsman, Joe Son put his hand in Keith Hackney's face and pushed him away. To me, that's unsportsmanlike, and that's totally not right. But if you want to find out more about Joe Son, please go on Wikipedia and find out more about it. He is disgusting. the next fight is Melton Bowen, and he took on Steve Jennum. Now, you may remember Steve Jennum from UFC 3. He is the UFC 3 tournament champion, and to be honest, Steve Jennum got a quite a frosty reception from the crowd at UFC 4, possibly because in UFC 3 he only won one fight to become the UFC 3 tournament champion, when most guys go in there and have 2 or 3 fights to advance, into the tournament. But all fairness to Steve Jennum, that he was an alternate. So what happened though was that this was a pretty damn tough fight for Steve Jennum. Steve Jennum got Melton Bowen down on the floor fairly easy, but he was pounding him, just giving him shot after shot after shot with elbow strikes and everything. But all the credit goes to Melton Bowen, is that he hung in there. He hung in there for most of the fight. Steve Jennum was showing more fatigue in this fight, but what happened was, right at the very end, Steve Jennum got Melton Bowen in an arm lock, and Steve Jennum beat Melton Bowen via submission arm lock in 4 minutes 47 seconds. So Steve Jennum has advanced into the semi-finals, but only just. The next fight was Anthony Macias, who is a hometown boy from Oklahoma, where UFC 4 was held, and he took on the one and only, the Beast, Dan Severn. Now, Dan Severn in this fight took Anthony Macias to school. He whooped his ass. He gave him, I believe, 2 German suplexes, and really rocked him, and he didn't know where the hell he was. And Dan Severn just ran through him, just totally dominated him. And what happened was Dan Severn beat Anthony Macias via submission, rear naked choke in just 1 minute 45 seconds. So Dan Severn has advanced to the semi-finals to take on Steve Jennum. Now the next fight was Royce Gracie taking on Clief Hackney. Now, what we found out in this fight is that Royce Gracie can actually kick, and he's a pretty decent kicker, but he is nothing compared to Clief Hackney, who is I believe he's a kickboxer and taekwondo specialist, who, to Royce Gracie, he's on another level, when it comes to hand strikes and kicks. But all fairness to Clief Hackney, he gave Royce Gracie a couple of shots which rocked Royce Gracie, but Royce Gracie stayed composed throughout the entire fight, and got Clief Hackney down on the floor and got a submission arm lock in just 5 minutes 34 seconds. So Royce Gracie has advanced to the finals. The next fight was the Beast, Dan Severn, and he was supposed to take on Steve Jennum, but he didn't. He took on Marcus Bossett, and what happened was the alternate fighters who won got a coin toss to see who would be the first guy in the tournament, and that guy was Marcus Bossett. And Marcus Bossett took the place of Steve Jennum, and he took on Dan Severn. Now, Dan Severn just wiped the floor with him fairly quickly and fairly easy. He took Marcus Bossett down with ease, showed him what real wrestling was all about, and Dan Severn beat Marcus Bossett via submission arm triangle choke in just 52 seconds. That's right, 52 seconds. So the finals is Royce Gracie taking on Dan Severn. And now here we are, the finals. Royce Gracie taking on Dan Severn. Now, and then another note, I should say, accompanying Dan Severn to the ring is the one and only Al Snow. If you look on this DVD, you'll see Al Snow accompanying Dan Severn to the octagon for his fights. But anyway, Royce Gracie took on Dan Severn. Now, Dan Severn took Royce Gracie down fairly easy and fairly quickly, but for people who are only just starting to watch mixed martial arts, they would see that Dan Severn was winning throughout the entire fight. But for people who watch mixed martial arts and train in mixed martial arts, which I am not one of them, but I watch it and I understand it, you see what Royce Gracie was trying to do. He was trying to maneuver him and get him in the right position for the triangle choke, which Royce Gracie was keep on grabbing his leg and putting it over Dan Severn's head. But Dan Severn was popping back up, still on top of Royce Gracie, giving him a little bit of ground and pound, trying to save his energy, but he held on to Royce Gracie for most of the fight. But Royce Gracie, to his credit, got Dan Severn into a submission for the triangle choke, and what happened was Royce Gracie defeated Dan Severn via submission triangle choke in 15 minutes 49 seconds to win the UFC 4 tournament. So Royce Gracie is now the champion of UFC 1, UFC 2 and UFC 4. And that's pretty much my review of UFC 4 right here. Fairly brilliant DVD to watch, awesome fights, but this DVD might as well have been called UFC 4 Revenge of Gracie, because Royce Gracie came in there and showed that he meant business. So that's it, that's my DVD review. My next review will be Survivor Series 1987. I hope you'll watch it, and again, thank you very, very, very much for watching this video. And if you like my other videos, you know what to do. Subscribe. I'll be doing more of these videos, and that's it. So until next time, I will see you again. This is biggerlouie1988 signing off, and I'll see you next time. So see you later. Cheers. Bye bye.